Okay, I will say, and rather, you drop a latest update on Attorney General Ken Ofori-Atta extradition information bebre at the Mahama and Okopimo our USA court. I will say attention rise a federal a court our USA. I will say court no and Attorney General tension rise woman terminal and your tension to Ken Ofori-Atta Sisiano wakwako high top lawyers HSA or more US say defending a crime against a Attorney General. No the extradition to Ghana ne onye na doing say obebane aba echna intino sisiano sa lawyers ya Ken Ofori-Atta wakwako high omono anase wakwako rente omono abusia lawyers omo ye kukudama sisiano omo fight against a Attorney General of Ghana. As you see, Attorney General so no the document in the BBA I ready as our lawyers so no I just say on so expose Ken Ofori-Atta as our lawyers na enye asam keto client no oko USA court wa ebusia ese wani ense okache momi anko na yenkonkuti ensema ekos on subscribe like na share ma afufron so ensa into me enkabi Ghana Politics Avenue so and don't forget to click on the notification bell so that any updates be ever dropping once a bit to me
making the call for Ken Ofori-Atta to come back to face questions about the SML and other matters that, for instance, the special prosecutor has cited him in. Now, the Attorney General earlier today, Dr. Dominic Akuritinga-Ayine, has disclosed that his office has formally transmitted an extradition request for Kenneth Nanaya Ofori-Atta and his former chief of staff, Ernest Dakon Akori. He explained that the matter now rests with the American authorities. That's the reality of the situation, and this is it. Take a look.
You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices, and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Kenneth Ofori-Atta and Ernest Dakon Akori from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review, our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request required clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised, thereby finalizing the extradition request packages. Subsequently, on December 10, 2025, my office transmitted the complete request to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for onward transmission to the competent authorities in the United States of America. That is, in this case, the Department of Justice of the United States. At this point, it is left to the American authorities, especially the judicial authorities, to make a determination on whether a sufficient basis exists for the two accused persons to be.
Well, he also mentioned that he is expecting a fierce legal battle over the extradition of the former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, revealing that Ken Ofori-Atta has engaged some of the top lawyers in the United States, to fight the extradition request. That's the update we got from the Attorney General. But let's take a listen to him, and we'll engage a few persons on Zoom. Take a look.
I got to know that he has hired some of the top lawyers in the United States of America, very experienced lawyers, to, defend him. Now, I'm not afraid at all right? I am not afraid at all. But it means that there's going to be a fight in the federal courts in the U.S. If the district court says no, he will go to the circuit court, all right? If the circuit court says no, he's entitled to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to fight his case. So I cannot tell you that he will come tomorrow or he will come the next day, okay? And I'm just being honest. Accounting to the people means being explicit and truthful. So this is what, we are faced with. But I have, on behalf of the government of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, we have taken the requisite steps to bring him to Ghana to face trial.
So that's the Attorney General, Minister of Justice. The update is this, that yes, the extradition request has been sent to the United States. We don't have control over what happens next. That's what he said. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He has been one of the major, strong voices about the questions of accountability that Kenneth Oyatta has to come back to answer. And then the other options that the Attorney General has, instead of the answer that, look, I've just submitted the extradition request to the United States. What is going to happen next is really not in our control. So I thank you for that education. Thank you so much. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. Let's stay a bit further on this matter. As we do know, the special prosecutor has charged Kenneth Oyatta with 28 counts of corruption-related offenses and other offenses as well. Last week, this is what happened in court. We're going to put it on the screen. Manasseh Azuri-Awone is going to be joining us right now as well. The High Court granted the OSP's application to serve summons on Kenneth Oyatta and his chief of staff with proceedings held in camera. This was an update last week. Manasseh Azuri-Awone is an investigative journalist. Has also been quite heavy, sinking his teeth into Kenneth Oyatta, SML, matters arising. Manasseh, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred, and thanks for having me.
I'm going to take your quick reaction to the latest from the Attorney General regarding Kenneth Oyatta. And he says, well, extradition request has been submitted to the United States. What happens next is not within our control. And as is his right, he has also, according to the Attorney General's intelligence, gotten some of the top lawyers, best lawyers in the United States to fight his case for him. Any end in sight on this?
Well, the end is not in sight, and these developments are not new or they are not strange. I think it was on your show that I said some time ago that a source close to Kenneth Oyatta had told me he had no intention of coming back to the country. It is a shame, and where it is getting to, it is becoming very clear that he suspects he's done something wrong, and he suspects he may get into trouble. So the best thing for him to do is to run, which is very unfortunate, because to have lived your life in this country, to have been entrusted with the resources of the state, and then you are being called to account. If you think you are innocent, we are not in that military era that people would be tried a day or two and sent to jail. Why is he running away? But it is good that some processes have started, and to some extent, the Attorney General is right. But when you are dealing with another country, you shouldn't just leave everything to say it is in their hands. I know the U.S. has time and again reached out to our state to assist them. We know that the U.S. doesn't only deal with one institution. Different investigative bodies are involved, and they involve everybody to try to get the people here repatriated to the U.S. for, to face punishment. Mm-hmm. So I know that besides the legal things, they have sometimes been diplomatic ways of dealing with these things. So if you just put in the request and go to sleep, much may not happen. I think strings can be pulled in other places, and this matter should be treated with all the seriousness it deserves. And I'm happy that the Attorney General has come in. Sometimes we tend to be so academic with the fight against corruption. Let this body be independent, let this. But the best way to fight corruption is collaboration between Attorney General, Iyoko, Shiraj, the OSP, so that together they can put their heads together and get these things done. So I am hoping that we would not just go to sleep and allow things to play out and perhaps say that, well, it is not in our hands. To some extent, that is true. But when diplomatic relations are concerned, sometimes something can be done to expedite whatever our expectations are in respect of bringing Ken Ofori-Atta back to our country to face justice.
Well, Martin Pebo, who was on the line before you joined, says one other alternative is to mobilize citizens. That to the extent that the power resides in the hands of Ghanaians, a demonstration, peaceful one, submit a petition to the U.S. Embassy, he says, is one of the alternatives that he, together with like-minded persons, would explore in the coming days. Is that going to make a difference?
Well, it surely does, because at the end of the day, citizens have their right to call for action. And for a long time, I think our democracy has been the way it is because citizens have abdicated that right and also responsibility to hold duty bearers accountable. If we all go to bed and say, well, the Attorney General has triggered some action, that is it. If something happens, fine. If nothing happens, fine. It is very likely nothing will happen. But if there is pressure from the citizens and those representing us at the Aegis Department, at the OSP, are also minded to act based on that pressure, and the international community knowing that, okay, when there are criminals here in our country and we are requested to bring them, all the state agencies do everything they can. I'm told this year alone, we sent 9 people to the US. These are not people we hate, but they are people who must face justice. And if we are sending so-called, let's say, petty criminals out, and then we have someone who superintended over our resources for 7 years, or even more, the budget, our expenditure, everything, and then he is able to misuse our resources this way. COVID-19 nearly killed him, but for the US. He came there, got good health care. If American politicians were dissipating their funds the way we do back home, were doling out these funds to deals such as SML, I don't think they would have built those hospitals that Ken Ofori-Atta had to run to when COVID-19 complications nearly killed him. He came to the US, got all this support, and when he came back, he did not have the presence of mind to say, look, but for the US, I would have died. So let us channel these resources to improving our healthcare, building hospitals. But he went on to spend these monies the way he did. And when he left power, he's come back here. The average person in Ghana goes to the hospital, and that person is likely to die because there's no MRI machine to diagnose them. Very basic equipment. They are not there. So Ken Ofori-Atta represents all that is wrong with us, not only, Ghana, but as a black race. Because all the time, we tend to say, well, and the whites are cheating and this and their resources. But if you look at how we manage our own resources and our elites, they have, in a way, insulated themselves from the suffering of the people. So that not many Ghanaians even can get a visa if they have the money to travel for healthcare. Not many of them can get a visa. So you are supposed to die. The person who is supposed to use those resources to build hospitals to save your life will misuse those resources, and then when he or she falls sick, they jump on the next available flight, go to access the best of healthcare elsewhere, and when they come back, they still do this. So I think with what is happening, it is not just about corruption, but also the integrity and the credibility and the sanity of our country is at stake.
Right.
If we allow these things to continue to happen, and then people like Kenneth Oyeata get away with it.
Well, I thank you, Manasseh, for joining us. He is an investigative journalist. Manasseh Azure Awoni done that extensive work on the investigation into the SML deal, matters arising as well. Now, this is a conversation that's going to be topical tomorrow morning on New Day as well, so make some time and join the team there. But coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, the repeal of the law allowing mining in forest reserves marks a turning point, but will it finally really curb illegal mining? Or how much of an impact will this have on the fight against galamsey in this country? The government has revoked the legislative instrument LI 2462, which gave the president the authority to approve mining in forest reserves. This follows the enactment of the Environmental Protection, that's the Mining in Forest Reserves Revocation Instrument 2025, on Wednesday. In fact, it was and the LI 2462 had faced, as we do know, the strong opposition from civil society, especially, and then also you have other environmentalists who were not too happy about how this was enabling the dissipation and destruction in our forest reserves. The coalition of civil society organizations have also since commended government for that particular move. We're going to put portions of the statement that they issued on the screen right now. And this is it. They say they've welcomed the repeal of the LI 2462 as a major victory for forest protection and future generations. Also, at its peak, LI 2462 exposed up to 89% of forest reserves to mining pressure, eroding forest governance and undermining institutional accountability. And the repeal stands as one of Ghana's most significant environmental policy reversals in recent history. That's a big deal for them. And they say it does not end threats from galamsey, illegal logging, and forest encroachment. Forests remain under intense pressure despite the policy reversal. Darrell Bosu is the Deputy Director of Arocha Ghana, is one of the CSOs in the environmental space that signed this statement. So Darrell is joining us on Zoom. Darrell, good evening. You acknowledge the fact that this development, commendable, yes, but it really does not have that significant impact you want to see in the fight against galamsey, is it not?
Good evening, Alfred. And yes, I must say that it is true that this is not the end of the fight against galamsey. Actually, we see this as an opportunity for government and everyone to really commit to turning things around. But I mean, before we even talk about that, I think we should not in any way undermine how really profound this revocation is. Because, Alfred, see, before this LI 2462 was passed, only 2% of Ghana's forest reserves could be mined, if anything at all. Then the LI was passed in 2022, practically now opening more than 80% of our forest reserves for mining. So it is not just about allowing the president to grant some mining concessions in some protected forest reserves. It was actually opening up more than 80% of our forest reserves for mining, compared to a previous baseline of just 2%. So for us, it is very, very huge. But like has been said, this is just for us how we think that the government is committing to really working towards addressing the issues of galamsey. We are not patting them on the back with this. We are acknowledging a positive step they have taken, but it doesn't mean that all the pressure, all the threats that our forests are exposed to are over. Actually, even as we speak, just some 4 days ago, the Forestry Commission did come out to say that instead of about 45 forests, now about 50 of them are now impacted by illegal mining. So it looks like the numbers of forest reserves being impacted by illegal mining is even increasing. It might not be as serious as the 9 that were off limit to Forestry Commission staff, but there is impact more, you can say that very low impact, even medium impact of illegal mining activities happening to a lot more forest reserves than it used to be before. So it means that the threat is still there, and we need to do more than just stop at the revocation of LI 2462.
And you say that government must move swiftly from the repeal to reforms. What are these reforms that you want to see? Because we've seen quite a lot happening in the reform regime or architecture by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources.
So we need to course our political highway. So I can offer Atta and I didn't know latest updates at the Brema and Asan Ketokra. Unsubscribe, subscribe, like and share my Afro so and sa into me and Kawi and Ghana Politics Avenues. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so that any updates be ever dropping on so on sa to me aka Madam Ase.